Welcome to the PDHPE Module 5 on how bones and muscles affect the body and how we kick a soccer ball. Before we start the process of how to kick the soccer ball, we will show the major bones in use for the duration of this motion in order to complete this movement of how to kick the soccer ball in a proper way. Here is a diagram of the skeletal system and the bones that will be utilized during this compound movement. The following bones will be used during the kicking of a soccer ball: the skull following the ball, flexion and extension; cervical, rotation on its axis when running up towards the ball; core activation, the shoulder or the pectoral girdle; clavicle as stabilization, the scapula as stabilization; arms in flexion and extension when running up towards the ball; sacrum stabilization, pelvic girdle stabilization, and the use of all lower extremities for the run up with the use of the legs; femur activation, patella activation, the tibia activation, fibula activation, tarsals and metatarsals activation, which provide stabilization when running up towards the ball. Here are also the major muscles in use for the duration of this compound movement on how to kick the soccer ball. The following muscles will be in use for the completion of this compound movement: the trapezius isometric, deltoid isometric, the biceps brachii, agonist and antagonist movement when the bicep shortens and lengthens, when working together with the triceps brachii when one shortens and the other lengthens, which is an isotonic movement. The triceps brachii, rectus abdominis is isometric, erection spinae isometric, and the quadriceps agonist and antagonist movement. Quadriceps shorten and lengthen when running, when working with the hamstring, when one is shortening, the other is lengthening due to the desired movement. Tibialis anterior isotonic, gastrocnemius isotonic, soleus isotonic, and Achilles tendon isotonic. In this phase here, we see Jeremy position himself in the correct form and technique to ensure the best quality kick can be achieved when targeting a specific striking area of contact on the ball to increase his chances of scoring and decrease the chance of injury. The yellow lines in this situation are an indication of how Jeremy is focusing on the ball, and the skull is in flexion position so that the placement of the footing is correct when stepping up to shoot the ball in the correct manner to complete the correct compound movement. The movements in the bones that were stated before are all continuously seen throughout the starting position and run-up. Some new forms and key features of bone movement within these two specific movements include the pelvic girdle, the hip, rotation on its axis when running towards the ball, arms, flexion and extension within the forearms to run in a natural position and movement, and the use of all lower extremities for support and stabilization when running up towards the ball to hit it. The biceps brachii is an agonist and antagonist movement. The bicep shortens and lengthens, working together with the triceps brachii. When one shortens, the other lengthens. This is an isotonic movement. Quadriceps, agonist and antagonist movement. Quadriceps shorten and lengthen when running. When working with the hamstring, one is shortening and the other is lengthening to do the desired movement, which is an isotonic movement. Tibialis anterior, isotonic movement. The gastrocnemius, isotonic movement. Soleus, isotonic movement, and the Achilles tendon, isotonic movement. Step 2, the bending of the knee, we see a range of new bone movements. Patella, extension to its maximum range. Forearm abduction, pelvic girdle rotation on its axis to open up the whole body for a range of motion to increase the shot. Pectoral girdle, clavicle, scapula, and theora pinned back to open up the upper extremities. Plantar flexion, sole of the foot is pointed away from the shin.
In the photo, when the ball is under the foot, the bones in use are the skull following the ball, which is flexion and extension, the cervical, rotation on its axis when running to the ball, the shoulder, pectoral girdle, which includes the clavicle and the scapula, the arms, the flexion and extension, the sacrum, the pelvic girdle, and the use of all lower extremities for all of the run-up use of legs, which include the femur, the patella, the tibia, the fibula, the tarsals, the metatarsals. The muscles in use are the trapezius, which is isometric, the deltoid, which is also isometric, the biceps, which are agonists and also antagonists. The movement biceps shortens and lengthens, working together with the triceps when one shortens, the other lengthens, is an isotonic movement. Triceps, the rectus abdominis, which is isometric, the quadriceps, which is agonist/antagonist movement. Quadriceps shorten and lengthens when running, when working with the hamstring. When one is shortening, the other is lengthening to do the desired movement, which is an isotonic movement. The gastrocnemius, which is isotonic, the soleus, and the Achilles tendon, which is also isotonic. The new movements from the bones include all in the foot, which is the tarsals, the metatarsals, and the phalanges, the tibia, the fibula, and the patella, which is extension, the angle has increased from previous position, and the femur. The new muscle movements is the muscles found in the legs start to lengthen, which include the soleus, the gastrocnemius, the tibialis anterior, the hamstrings, the quadriceps, which are all isotonic, and the gluteus maximus.
The second last image shows the extension of the hamstring, which is then a decrease in the size of the quadriceps as it's not being used, and this could also lead to hyperextension. The muscles in use for the second last image, extension of the leg, are deltoid, which is the shoulder, trapezius, which is the neck, latimus dorsi, which is the back, the quadriceps, which are made up of three muscles, the vaterus lataris, vatus medialis, and vatus intramedialis, and hamstring, which is made up of three muscles as well, bicep femoris, the semidotatus, and the semibranus, and also the calf. The bones in use are the skull, which is what's in the ball, the ulna, which is in the arm, the vertebrae column, which is lower back, the sacrum and pelvic girdle, which is a part of the hip, the femur, tibia, and fibula, which is the leg, the patella, which is the knee, the tarsals, metatarsals, and phalanges, which are the toes. The final image shows all the muscles returning to normal function, which means they all return to their normal size and they don't increase or decrease in size. In the last image, all the muscles and bones being used will be the same, as the body is coming to a stabilization which requires all bones and muscles to contract or even move back to their original position for normal function so they're not damaged. The bones again being used for the skull, the ulna, vertebrae column, sacrum, pelvic girdle, femur, patella, tibia, fibula, tarsals, metatarsals, and phalanges, and the muscles in use were the deltoids, the trapezius, latimus dorsi, the quadriceps, hamstring, and calves.